information, and if we can keep any questions to the end, that would be ideal. With regards to the additions that you've just done, I've struggled to hear some of those. I haven't added any of those in, so this is as it was before tonight's meeting, so I haven't made any of those changes. And please can you remember that actually there was another item after this in terms of having a task and finish group, because we know that there are conversations happening with Somerset, and not all of that has obviously been captured yet in this budget. So that's going to be it. So I'm going to share the screen if that's okay, because I think that's probably the best place to start. Can you confirm that you can see that?
No. No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, it's Donna. Yeah, thanks. It doesn't have her up. Okay, but like did. Good. Okay, I'm going to start then. So, firstly, we're going to start with salaries. So this is for office staff, not including wardens. We know that we're working probably over at capacity at the moment in terms of delivering things, and we've worked out what we think we need to look at going forward in terms of staffing structure. So we have added that in, including an EMR. That's potentially for two reasons, potentially for any future service agreements that might come to an end and we end up with additional staff, or for changes within our structure that happen because of the conversations that we're going to be having with Somerset. So it's kind of a catch-all earmark for whatever may happen, because we're clearly in that position at the moment. With regards to administration, more staff, there are more costs. So we have increased the costs in terms of training and conferences, computer IT and insurance. We have increased. We know that we take on more responsibilities, there will be more costs towards that, and insurance prices are going up significantly, even just for residentials. Legal and professional fees, we continue to have conversations with Somerset. We will, and other things, we will continue to need legal advice in terms of supporting those and making sure that they're correct. And we'll also increase recruitment costs. If we're looking to go up to recruit for additional staff, there'll be additional costs for that. Here we've got costs based on staying in Dean House as is. We have got a contingency further down for if we were to move, and that is a possibility. And we're also looking here for additions in subscriptions, so that's memberships and other things that we subscribe to, so Hootsuite, for example, in terms of our internet, sorry, I couldn't think of the word, and then telephone and internet. So if we've got more people, there'll be more costs in terms of providing them with Teams and mobile phones, for example. We have included an additional cost for room hire, because we worked out actually recently that we're probably under budgeted for that in our current budget for costs using the GMR and those other suites. So we will need to make sure that that's covered. We've got cleaning costs in there, which we didn't have this year, and HR and health and safety, which has recently been agreed by wiring a budget into this year. We've pulled that out separately into a separate line for going forward. And we've included consultancy costs for things such as neighbourhood plan. You might want to pay a consultant to start with some of those and give us some of those options. And we put in 25,000 for a new office and 2,000 for hospitality, in addition to what we've already had before. Here we're looking at town warden specifically. So we know we have one at the moment, we've got another one coming on board very shortly, and we put in budget for another 3 and a bit. 2 to come on board in April, and then the 1 and a bit to come on in September, so that we can start working towards taking over the toilet cleaning and make sure we've got enough staff to be able to work 7 days a week in the hours that we're looking to work. So it gives us some capacity. And those are the associated costs with that. And then here I've split out some of these costs. So if we're to buy vans and tools and equipment, capital equipment, and we've got storage costs in for next year of £25,000 as a total at the moment. Here we're suggesting that the grants goes up to 10,000. I didn't catch that bit, but I think the 10,000 was going out of that, but if it is, then that's staying the same. And then here with regards to events, things that we've added in are, we've actually moved some around, but taken some out of town centre decoration to have a marketing and branding budget, because fans will need stickers on, and we've also found ourselves with quite another aspect of branding and marketing that would be better placed on its own budget. Floral decoration, we understand that if we want floral decoration in the town, that will come to us to pay for, as Somerset will not be doing that going forward. And infrastructure, actually those are the continually wires, or however you say those things, which the Christmas people are on about maintaining those. So we are looking to put some in budget to make sure that they are maintained. And here, this is a loose term, so economic income and economic development. So this is to do with a pop-up shop and potentially any events that we might want to put on that will be making money. So in there, there's two aspects to that. Next, with regards to democratic and civic costs, so move the budgets around slightly. So this is sergeant at base costs, civic activities, so actually increase the budget for civic activities. It's remained at 10,000 for quite a number of years, and we know that we're taking on more costs in terms of specifically around remembrance, that Somerset are pulling back from that. So we've had more costs in terms of that going forward. And then vehicle hire and transport costs will increase going forward, and insurance for insignia we will need to pay for. We also are looking for a new civic event earmarked, because we know that the thing that I can never remember might be asked to. Dudley Dun, what's that, Donna? Can you remember?
Freedom Parade.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know why I can't remember it. We also will potentially need new or additional civic attire. We don't have anything in budget for any of that, and if that's something that we want to do, we will need to be able to pay for that somehow. We have reduced the councillor training because you've all done quite a bit, but there will still be some to do. We have suggested a member's allowance of £30,000, so clearly that's up for you to discuss. If that's not what you're doing, that's gone to a remuneration committee, and I don't know if that's come back out yet. Anything? No, anything. Okay. Next one, so in this budget we put in election costs, and we have had an update on this, which would be that we could pay rather than £98,000, which is what the first invoice was. They're actually suggesting that we could pay £70,000, and we can pay half this year and half next year. So we might be able to save some on that line going forward, which I can change, which can come out through the working group. And we also ought to think about by-elections, and if there was by-elections. I mean, in that, those lines, we can have a little look at that. There's some room for manoeuvring. I'm going to whiz past allotments because I'm leaving that all exactly the same as it is. And the only thing that I've added, and we're still unsure about it, is the code control allotments. And I put a figure in there, but I don't know if that's anywhere near what it would be or cost. Sorry. Next is Victoria Park. So we've got a slight change in here. We've added a budget because we didn't have one for legal and professional fees. So this is removal of some persons unknown, and we have had a few instances of that in Victoria Park and in another park here, Chrysler Park. So we put a budget of £1,000 in there. Other than that, we have increased the costs by 10% because that's what we believe that Somerset will increase our service agreement by. We've also included, which we didn't have this year, excuse me a second. Sorry, budgets for the Grove Park and Pennyfield and Staple Grove, because those particular parks came across from outside of Somerset. We didn't have budgets in place for them. Here we're suggesting that a new range of items put in place in terms of not only looking after equipment next year, but making some major improvements, but also planning for the future. The one thing that I think this council doesn't have behind it is substantial earmarks to be able to move forward, and this is potentially an opportunity for us to give us that stability. So playing equipment, paths, fences and gates, bins, benches and signs, all things that actually, if we saved up for over a few years, we could make some significant improvements or longer term improvements where we need to produce some proper benefits to our residents in terms of improving their facilities. So of course, there's a wide range of items there that we need to look at. The notice boards, pavilion and compliance checks that have been done by Somerset at the moment, that will come across to us next year. Next, in terms of toilets, we have reduced the service contract because we're only going to be paying for 9 months and 12, because it'll be up to December. Well, I'm not sharing my germs with you, sorry. So we reduced that because we're looking for our owners to take that on potentially going forward. So those figures remain the same in terms of maintenance, but reduced in terms of the contract. And here we've included 15,000 for consumables for us to be able to take on the toilets going forward. This is the figure you were talking about earlier. So we have that at 200 and we wanted to increase that. We also have different, oh, excuse me, I'm going to take a glass of water, one second. Additional waste options, which are sundry bins and additional baking units were included in there. We also need to pay for the utility bills for our toilets and pavilions next year, so we've included that in there. Here we've included grant income and expenditure for the grants that we're looking to apply for and spend, and then we split down the new costs. Donna, can I hand over to you for a minute?
You scroll down as I'm speaking because you've got control. So yeah, so here we've got some improvements in here. So we've got the common show stewardship. So we've got a provisional figure in there of 150,000. Youth provision of 100. Capital projects is a new budget heading as well for 250,000. Climate and ecological 20,000. We've got a devolution and contingency in there at the moment at 200,000 and devolution services at 100,000. Again, that's something that we need to look at with Somerset Council, which is why there's another agenda item for a working group, because obviously those figures could change depending on what the council decides that they want to take on, if anything. So those figures are obviously up for negotiation at the moment, but there's just a sum in there to start with. And then there's a new heading for cultural development of 50,000. And obviously with all this, we need to ensure that we've got provisions in our reserves. So there's transfer for EMR for 250,000 for the implementation budget as well.
Oh, sorry, that's 250,000 to go into our general reserves because our net revenue will be higher than it currently is because of potentials. Sorry, thank you so much for that. If anybody has any questions, I've stopped coughing and I'm happy to answer them if I can.
Councillor Rich, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I just want to know about Victoria Park and how does this affect the Friends of Victoria Park? Will you in the past have friends connected with them?
I'm not aware that it would affect the Friends of Victoria Park.
Thank you.
Councillor Robinson.
Excuse me for being a bit of a daft questioning, but in the section of new councillors, is that the travel costs the next coming year, or have I read the wrong section?
So in terms of the councillor costs that were there, the 30,000. So that's if you agree to take an allowance, if that's what you decide to do as a council, to take allowance.